until I started tracking, I would never even start thinking about how I feel at 9 o'clock in the morning, that would have anything to do with what I was eating, 12 hours before. It would not even cross my mind to think about that.
If you want to live like you matter, ditch the pills, look great, and feel freaking amazing, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Wendy Trudeau.
And I'm Dr. Ed Levitan. Welcome to the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast,
where we empower you to live a vibrant and healthy life by optimizing your structural, chemical, emotional, social, and spiritual lives.
Hold on to your hats.
Hello, and welcome to the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast. We have Dr. Torkil Færø today. He is a GP, which is a general practitioner physician, an emergency physician, documentary filmmaker, author of The Pulse Cure, the revolutionary new way to balance stress, optimize health, and live longer. He's had over 26 years as a freelance doctor and learned that many of the causes of our diseases is most often found in the stressors our lifestyles place on our bodies. So using wearables, he's found a way to track and regulate his nervous system and physiology. So we're going to dive into that today because we know you have stress and we know that it takes a toll on you because we see you in our daily lives too. So we're going to dive in. So welcome, Torkil. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you, both of you. Great to be here.
So let's talk about, well, first of all, you showed a cool little...
Show us your vendor.
example of what. So can you identify and walk us through what those are and what are the different?
So on my left wrist, I have a Garmin watch, which are the best tools, I must say. Best and also the cheapest and most accessible ones. If you want to micromanage your stress levels 24/7 or to be able to see the stress levels 24/7, you don't have to look at it all the time. That would be the Garmin watches. And they get their algorithms from the Finnish company Firstbeat, which is an experienced company in physiological measurements. And on the other wrist, I have the Samsung watch, which has recently been upping their game. It seems really good. And they also have a Samsung Galaxy Ring that is you can use in combination. I also have the Oura Ring, which is probably the most experienced of the rings. And I have a Norwegian, because there's so many gadgets now coming up, and there's a Norwegian ring also, Inspiring, that also seems to be good. So there are so many choices, so that a person can choose whether they want to have like an Oura Ring, which is not so intrusive. It gets you a morning report, your readiness for the day, you get a score for your sleep, and you get your heart rate variability. And you can have the Garmin watch if you really want to find out, okay, my main problem of stress is between 1 and 3 o'clock when I'm in a meeting with a certain colleague that I'm not particularly, don't like very much. Problem is that your heart rate may go up for good or bad reasons. So when this colleague, you may be in love with him or her, or be annoyed by the person, so your heart rate will rise anyhow. But you have to do that detective work, because these devices, they have artificial intelligence, but they don't have the human intelligence. So you know what is going on inside your life. So you shouldn't make these devices, take full control of your life, of course not. But they will tell you something about what's going on that you're not equipped to know. And you have to combine your intelligence with the artificial intelligence and the algorithms, and then take your decisions.
Right. I mean, I think we've also talked about hermetic stress at many different points. And so you can know, is this stress that's causing you to grow, or is this stress that's just pounding away at your resilience? And people know, if you slow down enough, whether this is healthy stress or unhealthy stress. So,
and when did you want to show your device while we're at it?
So I wear the Whoop. I used to wear the Fitbit, and I've been wearing the Whoop for 4 years, I think. And I love it. I mean, I use it. I mean, I know how I feel, but I'm also interested in understanding, is how I feel matching up with what's on paper, so.
Yeah, I also use the Whoop band. So now I'm waiting for the number 5, and I don't have space on my arms for that one. And I've used it for 4 years myself, and it's a brilliant choice also. And also what is good about it is that it doesn't have a screen. So if you're don't want to be able to see your heart rate, at any time, then it's a good choice also.
What about the Apple Watch? And you don't wear it. Is that just because you don't have wrist space, or?
I've been wearing it, but it doesn't seem to be as good as the other choices. So it's been more erratic, I think, in the what I can see. Although if you really need to have an Apple Watch, then the app is called Athletic, the combination between athlete and analytic. I think it's the best one over those. But I think the ones I wear now, they have a different standard. So probably, maybe in half a year, Apple will be having some improvements, because it's so much happening here. And the good thing is that now there's money in preventative healthcare. They make money on giving us tools to keep us healthy, and not just waiting until we get sick and then have pills and procedures and everything that you know, of course, everything about. So I think I'm optimistic that this can help us to take charge of our own health and put our health, the control, literally in our own hands, so we can avoid getting sick. Because what I see in the doctor's office is that people who didn't have to get these diseases with a good lifestyle, which is the subject of my book, The Pulse Cure, is not only that it's this technology, but also it's the best tips on how to live a good lifestyle, when it comes to sleep and stress and movement and nutrition and alcohol and a host of other stuff. So because the people I see in my office here, that I give pills, because here I do what is expected of me. I'm not going into the lives of these people and turning everything upside down. I pretty much listen and look and observe and get information. But I know that you didn't have to sit in this chair next to me here if you followed the advice in the Pulse Cure.
So I want to kind of do two sides. So one is, how do we best use this technology? We all know we shouldn't drink before bed, or hopefully, alcohol messes up sleep, but we can actually see it if we track it. Meditation. So first, how do we best use the technology? And then the other side I want to talk about is, I know a friend that has used the technology, I think the R-ring and something else, but he was getting so stressed that he was
stressed about his stress,
that he was getting stressed, and they were showing something that he wasn't sleeping. And as soon as he took off the technology, he slept. Yeah. So how do we walk that line?
Yeah, for some people, and I would say that percentage would be maybe 5-10%. Like all good medicine, there's some side effects. And for some people, it may not be the right choice, and they may be too obsessed about it. But often they would be obsessed about other things, and they would be worried about other things that is hard to take control of. So it would just be a symptoms of a modus operandi or how they work. So you would rather find a way to do this right, and then you could transfer the knowledge of that into the other areas of your life, is what I think. So you should really take it just as a help, as an aid, just like you do in your car. You watch the dashboard, the speed is okay, you would not, the police officer will not take your license and give you a huge fine. And you know that, okay, there's so much gas left, I need to fill gas soon and plan that. And you would see that if your oil lamp starts flashing or something is wrong, you will get the signal. And this is the same thing. And in my experience, 90% of people treat these devices just like the dashboard in their car, with the same attention. And you're not obsessed with it in your car, and there's no reason to be obsessed with this here in real life as well. But of course, many people will find that their stress level is way too high. And they may be stressed by that, but it's just reality. You just get a reality check that if you continue with this lifestyle, you will be sick, or at least you increase your chances of getting sick for any of the modern day diseases. So you could hope for the best and put the watch away, but it will not solve the problem. It's like if you get a fever and you as a doctor would say, okay, just throw away the thermometer and everything is right. Of course it's not. So you have to know that you can tolerate this reality check and that you can do something about it. And of course, if you don't know what to do, then it's stressful. When I started out 6 years ago with an ECG-based monitor, I was expecting, as doctors, we were taught in medical school that it's either rest and digest or fight, flight, or freeze. And I was never in fight, flight, and freeze. So I would expect when I started measuring my system to only see the parasympathetic mode. I'm never stressed in that way, but I could see that, wow, there's stress all over here. And I spent maybe 2 years all by myself because everybody thought I was weird, watching my pulse in this way. Detangling this and understanding, okay, what stresses me. And I could see that what stresses me is not the mental side. It's food. It's alcohol that I thought was relaxing me. It's nicotine that I used to use. It's certain foodstuffs like chili or mustard or something that creates the stress in me. And being on Instagram, I like 32,000 followers, so I get insight into so many other people's systems, and we're all individual. So it will show you how you react to certain things or don't react to certain things. While we as doctors, we're used to large studies where we get presented with an average that has no significance for an individual. So here you get individualized results that are actionable so that you can experiment and see, okay, well, if I don't do this, then what happens? And for most people, there's somebody will get too stressed by it, but most people will think of it as a gamification of their health. They think it's fun, interesting, they're curious, because this is like a discovery, into your own system that most people find really interesting and amazing.
I mean, I will say for myself, I struggled. I have been tracking and disturbed by my oxygen sats for the last, 9 months, maybe more. And I've been watching and trying to understand like what causes them to go lower, what causes them to go normal. And what I finally pinpointed, Torkil, this has taken me 9 months of watching and correlating, is that if I do cardio, and it doesn't have to be ridiculous. We're not talking like short of breath and dripping sweat. We're talking like a half-hour walk at a 20-minute mile. So it's really not crazy. But if I do cardio 4 times a week, my oxygen sats are perfect. If I don't do cardio enough, I clearly see my oxygen sats start to drift down. And it took me months to figure it out, but it really did serve as a way of going, oh, it's not optional, right? That walk is not optional. That walk is actually keeping my lungs and my heart healthy in a way that I didn't think about it. I just thought like, oh, you should exercise, right? Everyone should exercise. So it's been fascinating to untangle that. And I untangled it about a month and a half ago. And I'm really like, now it changes behavior because it distresses me to see my sats go low, right? So now I'm like tracking every day.
Yeah. Yeah, what you can measure, you can manage. So it makes it so much easier. And I found out so many interesting things about my own body that, of course, I was eating, like chili for me is horrible, just like drinking alcohol. And of course, I've been eating chili all my life. And until I started tracking, I would never even start thinking about how I feel at 9 o'clock in the morning, that would have anything to do with what I was eating, 12 hours before. It would not even cross my mind to think about that. Once you start seeing that, wow, there's a difference in my stress levels throughout the night this day and it wasn't yesterday, then you start, considering and looking at your diet and other things. So you would, like most people, of course, would find out that alcohol is terrible. It's the worst thing you can do. According to Whoop, that's the worst stressor of all. And I, as a doctor, used to have 2 glasses of wine to wind down an evening. That's a word that I thought it was the best thing, and it was the worst thing. So it kind of tells you how hard it is to find these things out. And also late meals. So I need to stop eating anything maybe 3 or 4 hours before I go to bed. So a lot of people find this out too. And also hard exercise. I used to take 100 push-ups and then go to bed. Terrible choice, and then when I could see the readings, okay, I'll do it at 6 o'clock instead of at 11 o'clock. And I used to think that if I'm really, really tired, I've been working really hard until I go to bed and then just crash in bed, that's a good night's sleep. But you really find out that is not a good night's sleep, that you need to spend the last 1 or 2 hours of the evening to wind down slowly, dim the lights, do something easy like reading a book or whatever relaxes me. And that night will be more restful and there will be more recovery taking place on such a night.
Can you talk about what are concrete steps people can take to sleep better? Because everybody needs to sleep better.
A very concrete step is because now as I work here in the north of Norway, there's suddenly different surroundings. So, and I can see that the bedroom that I'm sleeping in has white walls, which means that if it's just a tiny piece of, light coming through, the whole room lights up. And in my room at home, me and my wife, it's totally dark. It's dark, wallpaper, it's dark, everything is dark inside. So that, because that is really important, that your bedroom is as dark as possible, because any light will disturb the melatonin that can help you both fall asleep, but also regulates, a lot of processes while you are asleep. So get your room as dark as possible, preferably so that you can't see a hand in front of you in the night.
Hold on. I think we need to pause there. Torkil, we need to pause there because you remember we got into this when I got the room darkening shades. I was like, we got to pull it all the way down. And Ed's like, but I like to see the light in the morning. I'm like, not at 5 in the morning. Nobody should be.
I like 5 in the morning.
He likes 5. I think 5 is a sleeping time, and he thinks 5 is a get up time. So he used to leave the shade open by like this much, and it was bright in our.
But guess who won?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We need to sleep.
Yeah, you need to sleep. Yeah.
Did you know you were doing therapy, by the way?
Yeah, so I found out that that's a very concrete thing, and you need to have your room cool. I'm not sure about Fahrenheit, but you need to have your room quite cool, so that a warm blanket is not necessarily the best thing for your recovery. It may be comfortable, but you would be able to see on your watch or your ring that the colder or at a certain sweet spot in the temperature is better for your recovery, which is probably something to say with the way we evolutionary come from, from Africa. It would still be cold at night in the altitudes.
Is there a difference between what men and women need in terms of temperature?
It seems so. So I know that 8 sleep is very popular in the States, where you can regulate your temperature and you can find different temperature probably for it. It would probably be individual also. So there would probably be some differences between men and women, but I don't think it's that big. So in Celsius, it's between 15 and 18. I think that would be around 60 degrees. Fahrenheit. I think there's somewhere around that, plus or minus. Quite much cooler than most people have, or that I used to have before I could see this on my watch. So, and then, as I said, you need to wind down the last hour or two in the evening. You need to dim down the lights, maybe have some blue blocking glasses in the summer, or if it's too much light inside. And do some activities that you can see on your watch or that will calm you down. So which would be, for me, is reading. For other people, it could be watching TV. So it isn't necessarily so that watching TV is bad for you. For some it's good, for some others it's not. So you'll find out what helps you to find your sleep. And you should have 7 to 8 hours of restorative sleep during the night. So not only sleep, but it's restorative. And you would be able to see in the night, maybe you have sleep apnea, for example. So many people have that and they don't know it. And you would be able to see that this stresses your body, that the stress would be high even in the night. So, yeah. And of course, avoid late night meals, 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed. Stop eating.
These are all pretty achievable steps. You're not saying go climb Mount Everest. You're saying, eat earlier, don't do a hard workout before bed, avoid alcohol, move gently, do things that are restorative. And it sounds like prioritize restorative, which is the hardest part.
Yeah. And you should also, maybe the most important thing is to have sleep consistency so that you go to bed and wake up at more or less the same time every night. And the difference could be quite huge when it comes to sleep because, me as a doctor, earlier I used to work a lot of nighttime, evening shifts, morning shifts, to twist and the day around the whole time. And of course I knew it was terrible and I knew it was very uncomfortable working, 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. But that it was carcinogenic, that you could get really sick from doing that. We didn't know as doctors, I think, 15 years ago. And now we know, according to Matthew Walker, the guru on sleep, who wrote the Why Do We Sleep book. In that book, he refers to research that shows that if you sleep less than 6 hours compared to more than 7 hours, you double your risk for cancer. So it's a huge effect getting enough sleep. And when you have enough sleep, you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, and it's easier to do better choices throughout the day. If you wake up and you're already behind, you don't feel refreshed, you're tired already, that I used to be. Then you have the chocolate, then you skip the exercise, then you take the easy choice because you cannot muster the energy to do the good choice. So it all starts with sleep. So the Pulse Cure, I call it an expedition in the Pulse Cure because changing your life is hard, even with these tools. So you have to brace yourself for some real effort. And you start, with sleep, and you have the different stages of the expedition, and then you go on to movement and stress regulation and to nutrition. Is for the hardest thing for at least for me and many people to learn how to take good choices, and of course, staying away from ultra-processed food, and particularly the food that is addictive, the ones that you find, at the end of the supermarket, when you're tired after making all the choices. That's the food that you really don't want. And when you can see the result on your wearables, it's so much easier to take the good choice when you know what you will expect to see the day after. So when you were, lying in the sofa watching Netflix and having some snacks, you would think that you're relaxing, but your heart rate will respond to the stress of the food that you're eating for so many people.
I mean, we've covered a lot. So let me recap. So alcohol is bad for you. I call it the devil. Alcohol is the devil. Bad for you.
Don't forget the sugar,
sleep.
devil.
Sugar's the other devil. Eating late is not helpful for rest and restoration.
And one thing I will say is if you do eat late, or in general, walking or doing mild exercise helps really reduce that. If you do have to eat late, going for a walk.
10-minute walk. Are you talking about like
10, 15 minute walk? Yeah.
Yeah, short walk, short, easy walk. Yeah, that's right.
Got it. Okay. I mean, this has been fascinating. I love my Whoop. I use it all the time. He always thinks I'm nuts, but I think this whole thing is fascinating. So I think people are going to want to find you. Where can they, and we'll put all of this in the show notes. So where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Dr. Torkil, dr.torkil. And my book, The Pulse Cure, is on Amazon, on everywhere. It's also an audiobook, and an ebook. So it's easy if people want to listen to a book rather than read it. So, and I also have a website called thepulsecure.com, and there you can see I have a lecture there, a video lecture, where I show how to use the Garmin watches, and you can see the Pulse Cure is like a 1 hour lecture or so that explains you everything.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
So
It's been fascinating.
it's it's amazing. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And for the listeners, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Feel Freaking Amazing podcast. We hope this was valuable for you and that it makes a difference for you in managing your health. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Were you inspired and empowered today?
Don't forget to follow so we can help you keep transforming your health.
Until next time.